Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 140. I am so thrilled for today's guest, Veronica Drake. It's such a pleasure to have you here. You know, when I started this podcast, I kept saying it's a holistic health podcast. But as I navigated through all of these interviews, I began to see that and learn from all of the guests that holistic health is not just physical. You know, if you're missing something emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, there's not enough kale in the world that's going to fix that. And Veronica, it's so wonderful to have you here today because you are an expert in helping us to learn how to find our divine purpose and how to make spirituality practical. If you as a listener are looking to improve your health, even if you say, hey, you know, my problem's physical, I have maybe a thyroid condition, or I'd like to lose weight, or I want to detox, or I have an autoimmune condition. What we need to understand is that what I've learned from all these experts and all these doctors on the show is that if you want to improve something physically, we also need to address it on all the other planes of existence because our emotions can affect our physical body. Our spirituality can affect our physical body. Our energetic state can affect our physical body, and our mental state can affect our physical body. And so if we made it our mission to heal our body on every single level, including physical, right? So cleaned up our diet, you know, took some great supplements, started maybe exercising or yoga or a meditation or prayer practice, and then look to, you know, heal relationships, let go of negative emotions, and do things that improved our energy and improved our spirituality. Then what we're going to find is we have a whole life. We have a holistic approach to healing, something that might, although be manifesting in the physical realm, could be improved on many realms. And that's why I want to make sure that I have experts on how to improve our health spiritually, as well as emotionally, mentally, and physically. So Veronica, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. I am beyond thrilled to be here, and I just know that there's going to be some really great information that's going to be revealed, and I'm all about being the conduit for that. So thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Now, your website's beautiful, by the way. I think I have website envy. Your website is veronicadrake.com. Of course, the link to everything that Veronica does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast on learntruehealth.com. I'd love for you to start by sharing, because there's so much that you do, and I definitely want to understand what you do, but and what we can learn from you today. But how I'd like to start that off is by you sharing with us your story. What led you to become this healer that you are today?
Oh, sure. You know, it's interesting because you opened up with what you said, and I'm always mindful that our biography, our story, becomes our biology. And so the story that we live, the life that we live, becomes a physical reality. And so for a lot of years, I was spinning my wheels. I was ignoring everything about my life that hurt. I kind of lived in a bubble. While intellectually I knew what was happening, I wasn't raised with any kind of image of God or a God. In fact, my background, like a lot of people, I come from a very dysfunctional background. My mother is schizophrenic and bipolar. My father is an alcoholic who hasn't had a drink for 40 years, but when you're growing up in that environment, it's a very tumultuous, very uncertain environment. And the story that was born from that environment was one that reminded me that I wasn't good enough. I would never be smart enough. My father had this message about women that was, I'll just say, less than favorable. And I didn't have anywhere to turn. I had no support system. It was very scary. And it's only in hindsight that I can see that it was scary, because when you're in it, you don't realize that. And so I married very young, just because I wanted to get out. And the person that I chose to marry was someone that took care of me, which I needed desperately. And my whole reason for getting married was because I wanted to be wanted. And I thought I would have a child right away. So I had my first son at 21, my second son at 24. And life was, I just thought that was going to be the answer for everything. And actually, life got worse. I became addicted to pain medication after a back problem, which I ended up getting surgery for and ended up taking pain medication for a headache. I ended up addicted to Xanax in my 20s, because in my family, you took nerve pills to cope. You didn't really talk about what was wrong. And my story led me to make decisions based on other people's definitions of who I should be and what I should want. And so when I felt I couldn't do that anymore, I was about 32. I'm 54 now. And I literally had a come to Jesus moment. I was ready to kill myself. I was driving in my car. I had made some really poor choices that led me to loathe myself even more, that left me riddled with guilt and shame. And I was careening my car towards a bridge abutment, and I was using every naughty word you could think of as I was cussing out, quote unquote, God, because I didn't know what God was. And I remembered the last thing I said: if you're there and if you even care about me one little bit, you better stop this from happening. And my car's going 100 miles an hour, and all of a sudden, I felt this incredible warmth and light come into my car. I literally felt hugged. My foot came off the accelerator, and it was in that moment of November of 1996 that I found God. Now,
you're making
the God
me
of
cry.
The God of my understanding. And that's the important thing that I want people to know. God can be whatever he, she needs to be to you. And the God of my understanding was one that put me on a path to spirituality, to understanding my place, my role in the world. So it was pretty profound.
You can say that again. Oh man, I'm crying. Oh, I bet there's not a dry eye. It's so amazing. I love hearing that. I had a similar experience. I was a kid hiking in the woods in the wintertime, and there was a cliff, and the water was icy, and there were jagged rocks below, and I slipped and going backwards, so sliding backwards. I knew the cliff was coming up, and there was nothing I could do, and I called out God's name. And I got caught by a branch halfway falling down the cliff. And it was one of those, like, it felt like a cartoon, one of those cartoon moments where the Wile E. Coyote gets caught, halfway down by the branch, and you're thinking that branch can't hold anyone. And my friend that was with me ran and got a rope and got me back up. But I was lying there sort of staring at the sky, being held by this branch, knowing in that moment, like, I called out God's name and this branch caught me, and it felt like it was, even though it was a very tiny branch, it felt like it was hugging me, like, like, hey, you're gonna be okay. This is not your time.
So, your lifeline.
Yeah, exactly.
You're definitely.
Yeah. And
for me, that's the sign, God sends in the troops, so to speak, or our tribe. The archangels, they're the only angels in the angelic realm that when we are faced with an unplanned demise, meaning it's not our time to go, they will absolutely intervene on their own, of course, with God's direction. But it's no doubt in my mind that you had the arm of an archangel at God's direction.
Mm. And the idea of angels always was fascinating to me. And it was after my mom passed away that I met a woman who did like the Doreen Virtue style angel readings. And it was, I would have this experience of, and I'm like one of the most open-minded skeptics. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be open to it, but I'm like, you have to prove it to me, right? And I'd be sitting there like, okay, yeah, whatever, do your angel reading. And then all of a sudden I'd be filled with like this presence, and it was amazing. So I've had those experiences where, who is that in the room with me, and I've had those moments where I felt like I was being guided or loved, or, in moments of despair, I wasn't alone, I was supported. And I think it's wonderful to be able to commune with or recreate that connection, that spiritual connection, which we're definitely going to talk about.
Yeah.
So there you were. You had this. You discovered God as who today, and what next? What led you from that really dark point in your life? What led you to pursue this life of wanting to help others to create a spiritual life?
It's actually, it's so simple in hindsight to see all the pieces, but when you're going through them, I want, if there's one thing I'd like people to understand, and maybe my pieces will help them, it's a very natural, simple, practical process. Anything that has the magnitude of finding your purpose or listening to angels, people think that it has to have so many steps and it has to be so convoluted and it has to, we have to pay umpteen $1 million to find it. And the truth is, we have it in us. So after God decided that I should go on, I will be honest and tell you, there wasn't a whole lot of change initially, other than I walked around going, okay, now what? Now what? Waiting for the next epiphany. So again, in hindsight, what I could see, behaviors that I was exhibiting, actions that I was taking that would put me in this field of guilt and shame were all of a sudden blocked. Life would happen, and the choices that I wanted to make as the broken human being, I say the divine put obstacles there where I had no choice but to surrender to what was. So I'm a very thick, stubborn learner. It takes me a couple knocks on the head. And so I would, and also I'm very curious by nature. So I would try and find ways around it. Now imagine this, here I am, trying to find ways around divine direction, It's like, well, that didn't play out so good. And so ultimately that was 1996 when I really got serious about getting on the spiritual path. It was probably 1998. And what started it was my collection of quotes. I love me some quotes. I am all about the quotes. And so in 1998, we didn't have the internet like we do now. And, there wasn't a whole lot of resources other than paper. So I would get magazines and I would just cut quotes out, or I would write quotes on paper or make my own up, and I would paste them all over my desk. And when I look back at the common theme of those quotes, it was everything I teach right now. And so in 1998, God already knew. The foundation was already there. I was waking up to it. And so by collecting these quotes, I began to become a walking, talking quote. It kind of sounds weird when I say it like that, but I'm kind of cheesy in the sense that I'm just a happy person. You know, I just took those quotes to heart, and I lived them. And, you know, one of my favorite is, you know, you change when it becomes harder to stay where you are.
Yes.
I mean, how logical and practical and simple is that?
Well, what I love about quotes, and if you, I mean, I know you can think of it as cheesy, but think of it this way. A reason why reading a book can be so powerful is this person who maybe they're 60 years old has accumulated, when they write their book, has accumulated a wealth of knowledge into 400 pages, right? Or something that you can digest in a weekend. You could in a weekend or a week could digest what someone has taken 60 years to learn. And and someone might take a year or 2 or 3 or 5 to write their book, right? And what they do is they really whittle down to the meat as much as they can. And quotes are and there's still a lot of fat in books, right? When you really want to whittle it down even further, books are maybe there's one chapter. If you can whittle it all down to the absolute most impactful meat, there might be one chapter worth, right? And if you get right down to the message, that's typically 1, 2, or 3 powerful quotes out of a book, which make up the entire book. But you can't make a bestseller out of like 3 sentences. So, and as part of our learning process, you know, we have to sometimes go through the journey ourselves, and that's what happens when we read a book. But what I loved about quotes is that what you're really getting is that what that person, when they had their aha moment, when like lightning struck them and maybe they hit rock bottom and they had their aha moment and something that completely changed their life, that one quote came out of that. And so we can gather the entire breakthrough out of that one quote if we make it like that affirmation like you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool perspective. Absolutely. And you know, and I said early on, my biography, my life lived, became my biology. And so I love the quote, "You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it." And I believe that was Einstein. And the reality for me was, and I don't have a formal education. That's the thing. Part of my story is this. Women don't go to college. They marry men that go to college. And then they have babies and blah, blah, blah. And then the other story that was told to me, literally in these words told to me, "You're not very smart." So as you grow up and this is ingrained in you and this becomes the database in your brain that you pull from, it wasn't until I had that epiphany, you know, that I was about 32 years old and moved through this continuum, finally getting up on my feet to feel worthy and smart enough, where I decided to step out. And one day, as you get to know me, as people get to know me, one thing that's very evident about me, I'm a very simple, practical person. I really live the simplicity aspect. It's a value. And so one day I was thinking, as I often do, I'm a very analytical person, and I'm sitting and I'm thinking, well, why does my life have to be this way? And I mean, literally, I asked myself that question out loud. And, you know, why do I have to think this way? And I heard, again, from this source, because it's all you know. And I went, oh my gosh, it is all I know. But guess what? I could know something different. And so began the journey to retraining my brain, literally, to think a new way. And I was about, I'm going to say probably age 37, 38. So you know there was a lot of years of pre-programming in there. A lot.
That is so powerful. That is all you know. It's so true because it's like our operating system, right?
Yeah.
And if all you know is you're stupid and, you know, women, you know, raise babies, not go get a career, right? Then even on an unconscious level, that's the operating system that you're running from, or that you're motivated by. And so it's hard to think of a new way of being out of that old way of being. So you've got to be like the phoenix. You need to realize, and this is the hard part about our belief system, is that it's so in our blind spot that we don't even know what's our belief system versus someone else until someone else conflicts with us. And we go, well, that's weird. Why would they believe that? Like, that's not how life is. I have family members who are so into grammar and are so into manners, right? Like you have to have this fork at this time and this napkin at this time. And I understand manners, but it's like when you're sitting with a 2-year-old eating, like they expect that the 2-year-old is supposed to like use the right fork. And I'm like, it's a 2-year-old. Like, I'm just happy that food's getting in his mouth, but it's their belief system. And they really, that like, it is so foreign to them that someone would not use the manners they use and the grammar they use, right? And I'm not saying that they're bad and wrong or I'm bad and wrong, but it's an example of when we start to see our belief system is not the universal. And my husband and I do digital marketing. So we have these entrepreneurs come to us and we start saying, well, have you tried this method? Have you tried that method? And we'll have people go, well, I don't watch videos, so why would I put a video on YouTube about my business? And it's funny, and we start to like, smoke comes out of our ears, right? Because we think it's like the craziest thing we've ever heard. But then we realize time and time again, business owners will operate their marketing as the same strategy they use for when they buy products. They don't think about getting in the shoes of their customer because they assume that everyone is like them. And it seems so foreign that other people have totally different strategies. And that's when we start to see other people's belief systems. And so it's kind of like when it surfaces, right? Like we're all kind of goldfish in our own little bowl of water. It's really hard to see our bowl of water, but maybe other people's bowls of water are different colored, so we can start to see other people's water. But it's hardest to see our own, and until we start to bump up against other people. And I love that you saw that. It's like, whoa, I need to change something in my belief system before I can ever change something in my life, because this is what I'm operating from. So how did you go about doing that? Since it's so hard to see our own operating system, how did you go about reprogramming yourself for freedom?
Sure. I am naturally a very curious person. And as I said, I just realized that if I could think one way, why couldn't I think another way? And I realized that by self-experimenting, that this was like mind-blowing for me, because back in the day when I was doing this, it's now a thing, but back in the day, I didn't know. I imagined, I'll use the word imagined, I saw my life as if. And so I won't say that I lived in a fantasy, but I knew that I was here for more than what was happening in my life. And I just put this imagery in my brain. And the brain cannot distinguish from reality of living it or imagining it. The brain knows what you feed it. And so as I was seeing this life of being an inspiration and being a teacher and being all of these things, slowly it began to happen. But, I want to just back up and say that we are all born with a sacred contract. We all come in with a quote unquote proverbial piece of paper that says this is why we're here. And we come into this tribe, this family of origin, who are all well-intended, who can only give us from their point of access, from their point of knowing. And so when we're born, if she's a girl, she wears pink, we call her Sally. If he's a boy, he wears blue, we call him Bobby. That's a very traditional, simplistic look of being in your family of origin, being in your tribe, I'll call it. And so there's an importance to our tribe. They keep us alive. They give us a reference point. But around age 7, we start to break away from the tribe. Between 7 and 9, we start to form outside opinions from the tribe. Now, Most people will stay in alignment with the tribe because it's familiar and it's safe. And that's exactly what I did until I was into my 30s, because I was so terrified that if I ignored the tribe, if I ran away from the tribe, that I would fall flat on my face, because that's what I was told. And so this fear of not knowing, and the fear of the unknown. I mean, seriously, who isn't afraid of the unknown? But it's like when a baby elephant is born into captivity, it's tethered to a stake in the ground by a 5-foot rope. Easily, as the elephant grows, it could break the 5-foot rope, but no, it keeps going in the circle of the length of that rope because it's all it knows. We are like that as human beings until we are taught or till we learn that, guess what? We can come out of that conditioned believing. We can break free from those chains. Here's why most women don't. It's a confidence thing. And I don't know if it's, I guess it was a confidence thing with me. I've always been curious, as I said. I've always been proactive in controlling the scene. And I think that comes from being the product of an alcoholic and mental illness. I never knew what I was going to get. So if I jumped in front of it and I could control all of my, quote, friendships, relationships, people would never know what was going on with me. And so I thought, why can't I take that and put it to use in a positive way where I can control my thoughts? And so, for example, I ended up getting amazing jobs. I'm not college educated. I mean, since then, I've taken college classes and I've piecemealed an education together, but I've always had high management, high role positions, and that paid well. And I always did well for myself when you're basing how well you are on traditional standards, which my father did. So in his eyes, well, you got a good job, you make good, but you're still a woman, that kind of thing. So I still had some work to do in the belief system. And so it really was like one thought at a time. And I want the listeners to think of this. If you're going to come from your house to the house across the field, and you're going to walk that way every day, you're going to wear a path. And that's the same thing that happens in your brain. You think the same thought. We have pathways in our brains, and the brain, as wonderful as it is, kind of just relies on what it knows. So you come up with a situation, it's similar to this. Let me pull out the worn pathway of what I know. So what you literally are doing when you change your thought, you're creating a new pathway adjacent to that one. So imagine you're starting out at your house. You're going to walk to grandma's house on the other side of the field. You can't walk the old path anymore because it's got big holes in it and you'll fall in. So you create a new path. And this is what our thoughts are like as we change thoughts. But the first thing you have to do is become aware that you're in this rut, that you're having these thoughts that don't support you. And symptoms of that for me were I was depressed. I was cranky. I was frustrated. I was bored. And I just kept saying, why? Because really everything in my life was like, wow, you got everything. And everybody thought I had everything. This is wonderful. I remember coming home, sitting in my Zen room and sitting in the chair and bawling my eyes out for hours. I was so unhappy. And I just thought it had to do with the job I had, or, wasn't I a good enough mother? But the reality was my soul was screaming to get out. And that was a powerful realization for me. Very powerful.
I see so many people who have a similar symptoms. I was, there was a special on, we don't have cable TV, but we have we stream, different shows. And I can't remember what show it was, but it was like, almost like a news reality, more of a news piece or a documentary. And, and they were featuring the epidemic in Utah specifically of women, housewives who are addicted to pain meds. And that it was just an it was sort of like it was some crazy, I don't remember the number, but it was like this crazy, like blow your mind, like 1 in 3 housewives in Utah were addicted to pain meds or something just insane. And the reason why it was really coming to light was that a lot of kids found their mom's pain meds and then overdosed on them and stuff like that. And so enough deaths happened that they're really cracking down. And, but what's going on? Why is this a symptom in our society? Why is there an addiction to pain meds? Now that we can discuss, we could argue that there's a problem with our healthcare system, that, we're being prescribed drugs too easily, or the reason why there's chronic pain is that we're under-nutrified or we're over-toxic. I mean, we can talk about the physical symptoms, but a lot of people will go to drugs, legal or illegal, because they feel that void in their life and they don't know why. And so you were kind of sitting there going, there's something missing. Now, what filled that void? What right. What were you missing that you didn't realize you were missing?
Well, for years I filled it with the Xanax, I filled it with the painkillers, I filled it with extramarital affairs. I filled it with anything that was toxic, because anything that was toxic, I felt I deserved. And so ultimately what I ended up realizing was that I was trying to beat myself up. Any addiction, and trust me, I'm not the addictions expert. I don't profess to be, but any addiction to substance, to shopping, to sex, to anything is a call for help. I mean, obviously we know that, but I want women to be aware, people to be aware that we can become addicted to anything. And anytime an addiction flares up or shows itself to us, that's the place we need healing. So here's what I did. I was addicted to attention. I needed attention, and not just any attention. I needed male attention. Now, I didn't become promiscuous or, anything like that, but I was a major flirt. And the reality of it was I hurt so badly. I wanted to be wanted. I was looking for one man's approval. And when I couldn't get that, I went out for every man's approval on some level. And so one day, again, sitting in this prayerful place, just asking for just a crumb of a sign, what am I going to do here? How can I, because I noticed it, I saw it, and I would cringe. I would become the observer of myself. And I would be, oh gosh, what am I doing? And again, self-talk, quotes, understanding that I was never alone to begin with. And I began to commune with the angels. And at first it felt, I thought, well, is this real? Is this really happening? Because I'm a skeptic. I'll be honest with you. I'm a skeptic. And the same with my own intuition. I was very skeptical. And when I started to get rapid fire answers about what to do, and I would drag my feet, I would just see that, well, you're not going anywhere. Why are you dragging your feet? If you just pick your feet up and try this. And so I would listen to direction. And it was things like, well, start a women's group. And I would be like, well, I can't start a women's group. I'm not smart enough. I don't have any education. What do I know? I wasn't a trained coach at that time. Well, now I'm a trained coach. I have the skills and everything. And so I put it out there, and I started a women's group called the Ladybugs. And, the only criteria, the only rule was you could not complain about the men in your life. We weren't going to male bash. And this started out in my house, and I started with close friends. I probably started with eight women, and like I always did, I self-sabotaged. When something goes well, I self-sabotage. I was up to 36 or 40 women in my meetings, in my kitchen, and I just pulled the plug. I was pure terrified because I had all of this attention that I had been seeking. And all of a sudden, fear kicked in, and I went, what am I going to do with them? What am I going to do with them? And so I shut everything down, and that was the next step was I went to the coaching academy, and I became a coach, a life purpose coach, because the reality is I wasn't supposed to know what to do with them. It was me to get trained so that I can teach them. They already know what to do. So you see how it kind of just plays out if you're open to hearing it.
I hope you're enjoying this interview so far. We'll get back to it in a minute, but first, I wanted to share a message that has been on my mind to bring to you. You know, I started this journey because I wanted not only to help you experience amazing health, but I wanted to find it myself. And what better way to find something than to learn from experts and also to teach it? Through this last year of doing the holistic podcast known as Learn True Health, I have had the honor of connecting with over 100 experts in the field of natural medicine. One thing that's really inspired me is there's a group of people, in fact, it's the fastest growing career field in the United States right now, and that is health coaches. I didn't really appreciate them or understand what their role was until after I started interviewing enough of them. And I found that health coaches have an amazing ability to impact someone's life far beyond what medical doctors are doing right now. You see, you might see your medical doctor once you're already sick, right? The old paradigm of healthcare is to go to a doctor when you're sick, wait till your body breaks down or show signs of symptoms, and then you need a doctor's intervention. Not many people, now maybe you do because you're smart and because you're a Learn True Health listener, you probably do this to some extent. Go to a doctor on a regular basis and get great health advice from them. Do you go to your doctor and they say, hey, you know, I noticed that you could really use more vitamin C and I think you should eat this. And I really think that based on your body weight and based on your blood work that a few more minutes of cardiovascular exercise. And here, why don't I go ahead and show you how to do it? Why don't I go ahead and, I've got some recipes that are really going to help you because I see in your blood work that you could really benefit from these nutrients. Why don't I go ahead and spend an hour with you and help you do that so we can get you on the right track? No medical doctor does that. And if they do, God, hold on to them and definitely tell everyone about them. I don't know any medical doctor that has the ability to sit down with you on a regular basis and not only find out about your lab work, but also find out about your health in every aspect of your life. You see, if you have a really, really stressful job and you have no outlet for that, that can bleed into other areas of your life and lead to ill health, right? So what I'm learning about health coaches is that they help their clients to gain balance and holistic health in every area of their life. They come to you wherever you are, whether you're still eating McDonald's and you're 400 pounds and you're sitting on the couch, whether you're driving a truck and you just don't have time for exercise and you really do want to eat healthy, but you're always like 100 miles away from any Whole Foods, or whether you're already gluten-free and already eating organic, and you could just really use some extra advice to take your health to the next level. Wherever you are, a health coach meets you where you are. And then what they do is they slowly add step by step the most powerful but manageable changes slowly that make the biggest difference in your life. And they help you to find out what it is that you need most that's going to make the biggest difference in your life. And so the more I learn about health coaches, the more I realize that we need more health coaches in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia. We need more help, this kind of help where someone can be our health advocate, where they can hold our hand, where they can take the time to slowly teach us the things that we wish our parents and our grandparents had taught us. The things that we wish we had learned in high school, the things that should be taught in home ec, right? And unfortunately aren't. The lessons that we want to learn so that we can pass these lessons on and these healthy habits on to our children and to our future generations. Now is the tipping point. You may have heard the scary statistic that our children's generation now has a smaller life expectancy than we do. Can you imagine if we're meant to live to be, for example, 75 years old, our children might only live to be 68? This is very scary. The fact that diabetes and prediabetes, 1 in 3 people have blood sugar issues. The scary statistic that 1 in 2 men in their lifetime will experience cancer. 1 in 3 women in their lifetime now will experience cancer. These are statistics that need to be stopped, and only you can do that. So, if you're the type of person that knows that you could benefit from it, I highly recommend checking out a health coach. Now, I am actually in a health coaching program, becoming a certified health coach, and in 6 months, I will be a certified health coach. And I am absolutely loving this program. I'm halfway through the program, and I'm sending this message to you, not only for those who want to make changes in their life, but I know there's a listener out there who is looking for a new career, who's looking to shift their life. Now, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition was started over 25 years ago by Joshua Rosenthal. You can go back and listen to my interview with Joshua Rosenthal, which, he is my hero. He's absolutely amazing. I recommend listening to his interview. He started this actually for women. Now, he has men in his course, and I love seeing and hearing that men are getting into the health coaching field. But Joshua actually started the Institute for Integrative Nutrition for women because he saw that there was an imbalance in the workforce, that women had less opportunities 25 years ago to be able to live their passion and be mothers and maybe work from home. And as a health coach, you can do that. You can still be a mom. You can still have a career. You can still be a full-time mom. You can still homeschool. Whatever you want to do, you can fit health coaching into your life, however you see fit. It's amazing. What I also love about Institute for Integrative Nutrition is that they also have a business courses. So not only are you learning how to be an exceptional health coach, but you're also learning how to hit the ground running however you want, whether you want to do full-time or part-time, whether you want to take on 1 client a week, a month, whether you want 100 clients. They teach you how to structure your business, how to market yourself in a way that comes from your heart, comes from authenticity, comes from integrity. I have never been more inspired by an institute in my life. So for the listener out there that has been seeking, that has been looking for their life purpose, that when they think about the possibility of helping someone, of helping people, they get teary-eyed. Every time I think about people who are hurting, that I could impact their life, that I could help them, I just start crying. Tears of joy and inspiration. I want to help people. And so if you, like me, are inspired by helping people and you really are passionate, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to know anything about health. You don't have to be an expert. That's fine. You don't have to have a degree. You can start as a student with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they'll teach you everything you need. And you can do it in your spare time, do the course in your spare time while you're a full-time mom, or while you're working full-time, or whether maybe you're still a student. I love how they really organize, and they spent years. They've been teaching it for 25 years. They've organized the material. It's all online, so you can be anywhere in the world. There's students all around the world. So if you're the listener that I'm talking to about wanting to shift your career or add to your career, maybe you're already in the health field, you just want to increase your knowledge, or maybe you just have a calling and you want to try it out, please check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Go to their website. It's IIN, Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Check them out. Give them a call. and ask for, you can get a download to their course, their curriculum. You can even do one of their classes for free to check it out, to see if it's a match for you. When you go to enroll, mention you heard it from me, Ashley James, Learn True Health podcast, because I have aligned myself with them to make sure that you get a special. I want to hook you up. Any of my listeners who go through their program get a special from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And also, I want you to tell me. I want you to email me, ashley@learntruehealth.com. Join our Facebook group. Just search Learn True Health in Facebook. Join our group. I want you to contact me and tell me you're going through the program. I want to support you in your success. If you have any questions or you just want to tell me how amazing it is, I have some great listeners that have already gone or have begun going through their program, and they all love it. And I love creating this community. So if this is something you think would be interesting to you, even if anything I've mentioned is remotely interesting, if you go to learntruehealth.com, on the sidebar, you'll see halfway down, just scroll halfway down, you'll see that there's in the widget section a place where you can click to get more information about the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, or just go to their website. Their website so impressed me because you see all of the teachers that teach their course, and you begin to recognize their names, and you realize that these are all sort of heroes in the holistic health field, and you can't believe that you're going to be learning from them. It's been a dream come true. And I've had some of their teachers on the show already, and I'm going to have more. I've scheduled some to be on the show in the future. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my message. I wanted to take the time to give you this information because I know that there are some listeners out there that are looking for this change now. And they're looking to shift their career to help people, that they genuinely want to make a difference. We want to shift the message from the old paradigm of wait till you get sick and then go to a doctor and get a pill, to shifting our lifestyle. So we're living the most authentic, healthy lifestyle possible, so that we can have a life that is vibrant, that is full of energy. We can have health freedom. Right? Don't we want to wake up feeling like we're 18 years old every day, no matter what? And we can have that. So if you want to have that for yourself, get a health coach. Definitely get an IAN health coach. If you want to learn how to do that so you can do it for yourself and help others, definitely check out taking the Institute for Integrative Nutrition's health coaching program. It's a certification program. I highly recommend it. And if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to email me. Excellent. Well, enjoy the rest of this interview. What you'd pointed out was that when you first had the thought, maybe the angels told you, maybe God told you, however you received that message, you received that thought that I'm going to start a women's group. And it's like we declare something we could say it out loud or say it in our head, but we say something that is like would stretch our boundaries, right? Make us uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to run a marathon. The next thought is going to be the limiting decisions. It's going to be the limiting belief system that you have created as a program sometime when you were, 3 months old, 2 years old, whenever, really early childhood, or in some circles, there's a belief that we can even have genealogically have belief systems passed on through the genes or through past lives. So there's a thought that belief systems can even kind of come even before we were born. But wherever your belief system, wherever it was sort of originated from, that's the easiest way to distinguish our belief system is you say to the universe, I'm going to do this. And that whatever this is something that is going to totally be outside your comfort zone, stretch your boundaries. The next thoughts are all going to be coming from your negative belief system. And so if we can remember that it's like, it's even as an exercise, we could say, I'm going to run a marathon, and then just sit back and like listen to all of the, no, you can't, you're not fit enough, you're just going to drop dead. Who do you think you are? You're not athletic, or whatever, thoughts, all those negative, limiting thoughts. That's when we can really become aware of them and then go, okay, great. Thanks, peanut gallery. I'm not going to let like my negative beliefs run my life. And then just like you said, decide to change how you think. And so you can acknowledge the limiting decisions, but make sure we're not being run by them. And I love that you had that experience. And then you got so much success. You were like, whoa, because now you can see very clearly. I like that in life, that, in a safe way, we can see sort of our pattern play out, and then you can self-reflect and go, oh, well, there, my pattern showed up. Something really good happened. I sabotaged it. What can I learn here so that I don't, so when I'm actually really achieving, the goals I want in my future, I don't recreate that. So you became a coach. How did you break that pattern of self-sabotage?
Mm-hmm. For me, I'll tell you honestly, it was probably defiance. I was a very defiant young adult. I listened to my father out of fear for the first 20 some years of my life. And, let me clarify that I love my father. We have a fine relationship. There's, but with boundaries. And it just so happens that I am not who he is in any way, shape, or form, but it doesn't make him wrong and me right. And so I just realized that if I was going to serve a higher purpose and a greater good, that I was going to have to utilize all of the tools, all of the gifts that I know the Creator gives us. We are what we came from. We are the same energy that raises and sets the sun and brings the tide in and out and opens the rosebud. We're all part of that. And so I took it very seriously that I was here for a purpose, for a mission. And, I just happened to choose the path of life coaching. It's interesting because when I teach women how to find their divine purpose, it's, again, very simple. I ask them, what are you naturally good at? And, do you know how many women can't answer that question? It stops them in their track. They get like deer in headlight. And so I'll tell you, for me, what I am naturally good at is I started talking at 9 months old. I haven't shut up since. Anyone who knows me will attest to that. I sat in the coat room in kindergarten. I sat behind the teacher's desk. I was isolated from my classmates. I sat in the hall. I got detention. I just couldn't shut up. And it's ironic that I get paid to speak, isn't it? So my naturalness, because God gives us all natural abilities, it's in our naturalness that our purpose is all wrapped up. Mm-hmm. And so once I took time to unwrap my gift of communication, and listen, this is a great exercise for anybody wanting to find purpose. Go back to childhood. Look at the games you used to play. It's going to tell you a lot about your character, your personality. I was always the teacher. I had a full-blown classroom, big chalkboards. I had students, all the neighborhood kids. I had papers. I had everything. I was the teacher. Interestingly enough, I am a life purpose coach, a teacher, and an intuitive. And so it was all right there all along. It's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, it's always in your backyard. But we're thinking it's not. And that, again, goes back to the limiting beliefs. So as I found this purpose, this naturalness, how can I make this happen? So I was a manager in a dental office. I managed $1 million practice. It was like quite phenomenal how I got to do that. But people would come in for their dental appointments, and they would come in for a session with me before their dental appointment. They were they were drawn to me, and the doctor would be like, "Are they in session with you again?" Yes, and their doctor's ready for you now, but it would just be a life coaching session. Now, I didn't know it was a life coaching session, but you know what? I'm a really good listener, and I'm a non-judgmental listener. And coupled with the fact that I'm curious, bring in my intuition, coupled with the fact that I am so happy, it's sickening to some people. It just makes people naturally drawn to me. And, funny story, I was in the grocery store and I was pushing my cart around, getting my groceries and just being me. And all of a sudden this woman comes up to me and she says, "I've been following you." And I must have looked at her like, okay. She said, no, not in a creepy way. She said, but she said, "You talk to everyone and everyone talks back to you and you're so happy and people smile at you." She said, "What's your secret?" And I just thought for a minute and I thought, what is my secret? And I just said, I love life. I love what is. Mm-hmm. I don't want anything other than what is. And that's a big statement because so many times, and I feel like I could cry with this. This is a very emotional statement for me because I didn't always love what was. Mm-hmm. And I fought it for a lot of years. And every time I fought it, it grew bigger and it consumed me. And I'm going to label it guilt and shame. And when I learned to love what is, all parts of me, I began to understand what it means to live in harmony. And that's when I found inner peace.
So how do we do that?
When I started to love what is.
How do we do that?
Oh gosh, again, here I go to simplicity, and some people probably want to shake me. It's a decision. It's a decision. You decide. And it's just like forgiveness. Forgiveness, you can debate it all day long. At the end of the day, forgiveness is a decision. You either decide to forgive, and then your behavior supports that decision, or you don't. And with me, it was a decision to just love what is. You know what? I don't have to ever repeat it. I don't have to want more of it, but I have to love what is. When I stop resisting what is, because think of this, every behavior we have is energy. We are all made up of energy. When you deny a piece of yourself, it's negative energy. So listen, do I have the ability to be a flirt? Yes, that's in my wheelhouse. I'm a flirt. But listen, there's a shadow side of a flirt and there's a light side of a flirt. If I push the shadow side away and say, well, you can be a manipulator, I've accepted and embraced that. That doesn't mean I have to be that. I just accept it. And I love what is. And so it really is a very freeing statement. I hope I'm clarifying this right. Am I clarifying it okay?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure we can unwrap this because I think it's so important. You're not saying that you're condoning something. So let's say someone is in a part of their life that they're really not happy with, or they're not happy with certain aspects. Maybe there's a coworker at work that's talking behind their back, or they have a backstabbing friend, or they know something negative's happening in their life and they don't like it. Or maybe they don't like something about themselves, like an addiction, for example, or something they've done in the past. Or maybe they're overweight and they're like really hating their body and they've got, body dysmorphia. And so they're, but either you're rejecting something outside of yourself or you're rejecting something about yourself, right? And what you're saying is that it's not that you're condoning those things like, oh, it's okay that that person is backstabbing me or talking behind my back, or it's okay that I'm, overweight, or it's not that you're saying that someone's going to say that's okay, But what you're saying is instead of resisting and pushing against it, because pushing against it will not change it. Look at the, like, it's sort of like you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you're getting. Like, no matter how much we resist against something, it's not going to change it. You push up against a brick wall, and physics dictates a brick wall pushes back equal force. Mm-hmm. And so the more you push, the more it pushes back. So the more you hate your body, the more you're going to get hate, right? It's not brilliant. It's not going to change it. But if you just stop pushing against the wall stops pushing back against you, right? And so if you just
brilliantly said.
Yeah.
Yes,
so now it's like, now you have room to change. When you stop hating something and you just go, you know what? I love my life and everything in it, and I'm going to try this on. It's not the truth, but it's a way of being. I'm going to try on and really come from, and my actions and my thoughts, I'm going to catch my thoughts are going to all come from that I'm accepting and loving of my life. Once that happens, then you can put all your energy towards making a positive change rather than fighting it. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And, I want to just add something here. There's universal truth, which is the sun comes up, the sun goes down, the tide comes in, the tide goes out. And then there's personal truth. Personal truth is subjective. And what happens when we start feeling a certain way in certain relationships, it's because our personal truths collide. So I cannot look at my father and say, your personal truth about women is wrong, because that's his personal truth. And my personal truth is, I believe women are powerful. I believe women can do everything men can do. And when our truths collide and there's no willingness to be forgiving or to be accepting, that's when struggle happens. That's when warfare breaks out. That's when energy gets depleted. That's when people get sick. So it's my truth meets your truth. And we're meeting people's truths every day. But people who are unsure of themselves or don't feel that sense of purposeness in their life, they're willing to make their own truth pliable. They're willing to make it perhaps line up with someone else's truth, when in reality, that's not really what their soul is about. Mm-hmm. And so we begin to get lost. And I was lost in other people's personal truths for a long time, and that's a source of concern for a lot of women. I believe this until you tell me something different. And I'm hundreds, thousands of women I work with have pliable truths. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with amending your truth, because God knows as I've gotten older, my personal truths have changed. But know what you're basing it on. Know what you're anchoring it to. Don't do it because Joe Blow or Sally says to. Explore your personal truth. And that's the other thing. I help women find their personal truths. I'm amazed, I'm not, I guess I'm not really amazed, because I didn't know my personal truths until I was in my 40s.
That would help you to really get clear on your life purpose, to know what your personal truths are, because then you can, you're freed up from having other people dictate what your life should look like. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And personal truth is anchored in values, and values come from self-esteem and self-worth. And we create boundaries in our life to protect ourselves and our personal truths. And when we don't have a high level of self-esteem or self-worth, it becomes very difficult to impose boundaries. And that's where women find themselves being doormats or people pleasers. And so boundaries are so important. So the preliminary work to purpose is really building up self-esteem and self-confidence, in tandem with self-awareness.
Can you teach us some of the first steps? I can see how it's layered, right? I can see how you wouldn't just go, all right, let's tackle my life purpose. What am I meant to do without first doing the preliminary work, like you said. Like, first we need to build up our self-confidence. We need to strip away our old belief systems. We need to understand what our personal truths are, what our values are, so that we can understand sort of where we end and where other people begin. Like and then we can create health, and then we learn to create healthy boundaries. Not a lot of times it's funny when people first learn, and I had the same experience. When we first learn how to create boundaries, we get really violent with them. We're like, no, I said no, and it's like, there's a way to set boundaries with people so that it's in a loving, non-emotional, just like, hey, if you cross this line, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to not be in my life in the same way because these are my boundaries, but not coming from a place of anger or pushing, right? And so with boundaries, through repetitive boundary setting, we teach people how to treat us, and we've taught people how to treat us by how people are treating us now, either by being the doormat, by not having any boundaries. We've taught people how to treat us, or we teach people how to. So if you're if you're sick of how people are treating you, guess what? You're the one who taught them how to treat you, because you either didn't have boundaries, or you enforced a certain set of parameters, and people accepted that. Because when we go from the conversation of we're victims of our life and things happen to us, to we get to say what happens in our life because we get to set our own parameters within our relationships. So I can see that all these things you'd have to do before you really get into understanding what your life purpose is. And it kind of seems like a natural progression. So if we're all kind of beginners, teach us some things we can start to do to make a difference in this realm.
Sure. The first thing you want to do is become aware. And awareness can happen on so many levels. And so here's something that really helped me. I encourage women to get a soul journal. Now, you can go to Walmart, get a 98-cent notebook. You can staple pieces of paper together. You could get a pretty fancy one on Amazon if you want. Get something and label it your soul journal, because this is the communication between you and the universe. And so the first thing you want to do is to create awareness. I love the question, who am I? Who am I? Write it out in your soul journal. Every single day, every morning, there's prayer time. I ask that question, who am I? And some days I'll get answers like this, and some days I'll get answers like that. But the core of who I am is revealed in who am I in that question. So who am I? And the other question I love is, what is my life about? What is my life about? You're opening up the awareness, because so many women work on autopilot. They just are overwhelmed. They self-medicate. They don't want to look at who they are, because if they do, they'll have to do something about it. And listen, quite frankly, most women don't know what to do about it, whatever their it is. So you want to become aware. I also love the fact that when I sit down in the morning in my prayer time, I ask spirit, angels, whomever you talk to reveal what's in my highest and greatest good at this moment. And truthfully, the pen will just start moving. And listen, I may digress. We will. We're human. I just am committed to writing every single thing down. I may even say, oh, don't forget to take the car to the garage today. I write it down. Because when we begin to fight our thoughts, that's when we create stress and struggle in our life. So as you become aware of these thoughts, because you're writing them down, you'll begin to see a pattern of what emerges in what we'll call the kind of not so favorable thoughts. So then after I've done that process, I circle the not so favorable things and I look at them and I kind of look at what's the root there? What's going on with that? Why am I so obsessed with this to-do list? Why am I so obsessed with, overextending myself? What's the pattern of my life? And that's where you create awareness. And so once you're aware of things, of situations, of who you are, you can begin the process of doing things differently. Because I will guarantee you that most people aren't even aware of what they constantly think about. What word sums up your thoughts? What do you go to bed at night worrying about is probably the same thing you wake up worrying about in the morning. So until you shed light on it, until you dissect it, until you pull it apart, you can't know what the root of it really is.
I once did Toastmasters, and in Toastmasters, you stand there, maybe you get 3 minutes or 5 minutes to do a speech or a talk, and it's a very supportive environment, and there's it's very organized. So one of the people is going to be timing you, and another person is going to be the counter. So there's words you get. It's not like you get bashed or any negative enforcement. They just let you know. And so they count how many ums, so's, ahs, knows, those kind of words that aren't effective for giving speeches. And you are not in any way conscious of how many times you say or or so or until they let you know at the end. And so at the end, they kind of give you your score, and they say, and you said so 23 times in the last 3 minutes. And it hits you like you weren't aware. And so I love what you just said, because when you take time to write down in your soul journal, you start to become aware. You're like, wow, you just became aware of the fact that you are thinking like 23 times a day about how little money you have, right? And if you keep putting your energy towards how little money you have, and that increases stress, that that energy is not going towards solving the problem. It's going towards just focusing on the more problem. The more we focus on something, the more we get that something. So if we're just going to keep focusing on the problem, we're just putting our energy towards the problem instead of putting our energy towards the solution. So the question we could ask ourselves once we realize, wow, I can't believe it. I do wake up in the morning thinking about this. I do go to bed thinking about this. We could start asking ourselves, well, like, what would I like to do to solve it? Or what would I like to do to have abundance in this area in my life? And so like focusing on that rather than, but you have to even know you do it in the first place.
Right.
And it's easy to see it in other people, right? I've seen this in other people where every single conversation we have, they mention that their limiting belief, like, oh, that's too expensive. Oh, I couldn't believe how expensive that was. Oh, I can't afford that. And it might be true that they literally cannot afford that at that moment, but they're constantly reinforcing it instead of even holding on to the idea that maybe one day they could. And so it's just, it's interesting, right? And to see, to be able to, it's easy to see other people's belief systems, but when it comes to our own. So this journaling technique sounds fascinating, because we begin to see the water that the fish is surrounded by. We could begin to see what we're doing every day in terms of like you said, we the brain, we know is the one we feed, right? So so you're just becoming aware of what you're feeding your brain, all the either negative thoughts or positive thoughts, and then that'll give you the empowerment to change it. So once we do that, what would you suggest the next steps are?
Sure. And if we have time, I'd like to do a little experimental,
let's do
experiential with you.
Yeah.
So I believe, as an intuitive, as somebody who uses her intuition, that intuition is our first nature, not our second nature. We were born to be intuitive. I mean, it's how we survived. But we don't often reference our intuition or the place of intuition, which is our bodies, because we're just not it's not mainstream yet. So I have a technique that I call it the intuitive voice method. And so it kind of goes like this. So Ashley, I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling today?
Good.
So when I ask a question, like, how are you feeling today? I mean, literally. So Ashley says, and you can use this with any feeling that you're having. So Ashley says she feels good. Okay, Ashley, tell me in your body where you feel the feeling good.
It's kind of like high up in my heart, like I'm feeling it sort of where my sternum is.
Okay, cool. So now I want to be there with you. So give me an image that I can get in my mind of what good feels like for you.
Grounded.
So it's a visual. You're giving me a visual.
Okay. I'm not sure how to answer that. Can you give me some guidance?
Beautiful. And this is where most people get stuck, because 9 times out of 10, we go in our analytical head and we know that good isn't an image. Good's a feeling, right? Well, I'm telling you that feelings have imagery. Mm-hmm. So if you were to put an image to the word good, for me, it might look like this. I see an open set of arms and they're releasing balloons. Okay? So the creative center, the third eye, the sixth chakra is the center of creation. So let's use that image where you're opening your arms, balloons are being released. Can you see that image, Ashley? Can you be with it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're being with that image. You're feeling it. You still feel good. It's in your sternum. So when you feel that and see that image, who do you become? Who does the world get to see? How do you profile?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the world gets to see someone who wants to help inspire them.
Mm-hmm. So give me some descriptive words.
Loving, accepting, welcoming.
Yep. Beautiful
embracing.
Vibration. Yep. Beautiful vibration. Now, let's turn it around. So I want you to, and you don't have to share with us, but I want you to call to mind a troubling situation. And you're welcome to share it or not share it, but call to mind a troubling situation. And when you have it, you can let me know. Just say I have it or share it, whatever you want.
Is it something that I haven't resolved, or can it be something in the past, or
something you're struggling with?
Something I'm now currently struggling with.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You have it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you have this feeling, this thought rather, where do you feel it in your body?
My thyroid.
Okay. So give me an image for it. Or excuse me, give me the word that you're feeling. I'm sorry. Give me the word you're feeling first.
Oh, I'll tell you what my problem is. I'm doing some tests with my naturopath to figure out if I have a thyroid condition. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit complicated, and I'm supposed to take my temperature several times a day, and every thermometer, it's not supposed to be digital, it's supposed to be analog. Every thermometer I've bought ends up being broken.
So what do you feel over that? So what does that make? Like, how do you feel when that happens?
I guess there's frustration.
Frustration,
okay, so and not knowing the unknown.
We'll go with frustration.
Okay.
So she feels frustration in her throat. So give me an image of what frustration looks like.
Like fists.
Beautiful.
Clenching.
So you've got these clenching fists in your throat. You're frustrated. When that happens, who does the world see?
Someone angry?
And what behaviors do you exhibit?
Like my jaw's tight and people see someone who is not welcoming.
So what happens is when we resist feeling that, because a lot of us were taught, put your happy face on, you get out there, don't you let the world see that. When we resist feeling that, guess what happens? It grows bigger. And then all of a sudden it consumes us. So the key here is radical acceptance. I accept that I feel frustrated. I accept that this feeling gets the best of me sometimes, and I'm just going to let it be there. And then I'm going to move on. And then you just let it go, and you move on. So it's called radical acceptance. So you're feeling frustration. You image the frustration, you locate it in your body, you accept that it's there, and acceptance doesn't mean I want more or I like it. That's what people misunderstand. Acceptance is, it is what it is. I'm just going to let it be there.
I'm not feeding it anymore. It's like I'm not, it's like I mean, I'm going to use the analogy of a weed, but I don't think like dandelions are weeds. I think they're herbs, and I think they're beautiful. But if it was a weed, and I'm just angry at it all the time, but that anger was actually fertilizing it. So I'm just going to not stop fertilizing it. I'm just going to stop giving more attention to the thing that is not helping me.
Attention is it. And by the way, I do medical intuitive work. I can't see the thyroid as being an issue. There's some sort of mineral depletion. I would look into some mineral depletion. That's a side item.
Yeah, well, I totally am a big believer in minerals, and it's funny. It's just, this one little thing that is kind of been eluding me, but I think it's because I'm not, I'm more supposed to do it from a nutrition standpoint. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And magnesium, to be specific, look at your magnesium levels.
I love magnesium.
So just make sure everything's in balance there. But that's a side. Sorry, I digress.
No, it's fine. This is wonderful. So, wow. So I love that. That is such a really powerful, and that's something that once you learn how to do, you can do it really quickly.
Absolutely, do it anywhere, because I'll be driving in the car and someone in front of me will be going 5 and I'll need to be going 55 because whatever reason, and I will just get this in my gut, and it's like, oh my, and then I can see the clenching in there. I feel, and then I go, whoa, 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 whoa. You bring awareness to it by using your body, and then you're able to shift it. So it works. It works instantly. You will see yourself go from a 10 being the most escalated down to a 0 very quickly.
That was so powerful. Thank you so much for teaching that to us. You really do make spirituality practical.
Oh, listen, I tell you, if it can't be done simply, I just don't have time for it. In fact, going back to values, one of my values is simplicity. I grew up with such a difficult life. I said simplicity needs to be in my life. And one of my boundaries is this: you may not bring your drama to my door. Now, everybody says, oh, I don't do drama. Yes, you do. Yes, let's be clear. We all do drama. But I'm drawing the line. You may not bring your drama into my life. My sister will call me, my family will call me, and they're off the hook dramatic. They know I'll listen to you and I'll hold a space for so long, but you ain't pulling me into it, because one of my boundaries is simplicity. And the other boundary I have, or value I have, is freedom. When I was a kid, I was trapped literally at my grandmother's house where there was nothing. I was isolated, just my brother and I, and we didn't have a choice. We were dropped off. I had no freedom at all. There was nothing to do, nowhere to go. Do you know, to this day at age 54, I will not go anywhere with you in your car. You may not drive me. I will drive my own car. You can come with me, but I value my freedom so much that I'm not giving it to anyone for any reason. So that's a hardcore boundary. So, boundaries are important, and boundaries are what keep us in alignment and on purpose.
I love that. And how can you, I know boundaries is not something that you would, necessarily perfect or learn in a matter of minutes, but for those who've never consciously chosen to enforce boundaries, so boundaries 101, what can we do to begin to set healthy boundaries?
Sure. Again, go to the awareness, go to the soul journal, look at the patterns, and then notice what keeps happening over and over in your life that isn't okay with you. Okay. So let's just say, for instance, you're in a relationship and he just treats you poorly. He's disrespectful to you. He doesn't bring home a paycheck regularly. He doesn't contribute financially to the household. So that keeps happening. Why is that happening? What's really going on there? Every time a woman tells me this story that this is happening in her life, her whole thing is, I'm afraid to be without him. No, you're not. What are you really afraid of? And here's what she's afraid of. She's afraid of asserting herself and standing up and being worthy. And so her boundary is very loose. She doesn't create a boundary because if she imposes a boundary of, hey, everyone that lives in this house that's over the age of 25 must produce a consistent paycheck, she's afraid if she imposes that boundary, she'll be on her own. And so we know what boundaries we need just by what hurts in our life. So look at what's hurting in your life. Notice it. And then say, listen, do I love myself enough to put a boundary up? It's that simple, And again, self-love, oh gosh, we're taught all these things in academia and there's a course for everything. And, now the metaphysical world and the new age world, so to call, we have courses for all these things. Live from your soul, love yourself. But the reality is this, until you sit down and do the work and go deep inside of yourself, you're never going to heal. You're never going to find that true happiness. I can remember going into therapy, psychotherapy, which, listen, I'm an advocate for. I'm a life coach. I'm not a therapist, but psychotherapy, here I am raising my hand, 20 years of it. I've been with the best of them. And I remember going in first day and saying, she says to me, why are you here? What do you most need? And I remember saying, yes, I'll take some inner peace, please. She laughed. She looked at me and she smiled and she said, honey, that's something you got to figure out on your own. And of course, I'm like, well, what am I here for? Inner peace is not something you wrap up and put a bow on. It comes over time. It comes with hard work. It comes with awareness. It comes with acceptance. It comes with forgiveness. There's a whole big recipe for it.
Now, you have worked with thousands of women. Out of all those women, can you share some stories of success? I'd love to hear kind of the before and after of the work that you do, the impact of the work you do with women.
Sure. I had a client who was in a very dysfunctional, unbalanced marriage. She had everything going for her outwardly. Beautiful person inside and out, money up the wazoo, notoriety, fame, everything you could want, and was miserable in this marriage. And we worked together, and fast forward, she has divorced this husband. She has picked up and moved from one coast to the other. She has given up her wonderfully, incredibly well-paying job and has taken a job in a holistic center doing what she loves. And she's never been happier. She is living her life on purpose. Women come to me all the time and they want, the big question is, where's my soulmate? And, my answer is, we attract what we are. So, one woman just was relentless. I want my soulmate. I want my soulmate. Why do I keep getting, and the work we did together was, you're attracting what you are. And she was not going to have any of that because she wasn't going to hear it. And then finally, when I was able to sit with her and work her through her patterns of behavior and what she was really putting out in the universe, she began to attract a different kind of man and ultimately ended up finding her, like she calls him her soulmate. I call it, her other half, and lived happily ever after. because it's once you adjust what it is that you're putting out, the universe is going to give you what you give it. I mean, that's a law, And so success stories, women jumping from careers, women starting their own businesses. I worked with a woman who just was kind of wanted to do her own thing, but she didn't even know what her own thing was. She just knew that she wanted to be flexible and she loved helping people and And she ended up creating a holistic practice involving Reiki, essential oils, and later became a spiritual life coach. And she took a risk. I don't have the money is the big thing I hear from women all the time. Well, yes, you do. You just have to figure out where to get it from. Stop buying your $7 cups of coffee. Stop. You know what I mean? Like there's always a way. There's always a way to find and fund your dream. Might not happen as fast as you want, but there's always a way.
Absolutely. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I've loved what you've taught, and we really have only scratched the surface of what we could be talking about, considering that you are an expert in making spirituality practical and helping us find our divine purpose. Now, let's talk about your website. So for those listeners who've loved what you've shared today and really want to continue learning from you, your website being veronicadrake.com. You do coaching, angel readings. You also have this group, this workshop. Can you tell us about that?
Well, here's the thing. I love this. I have spiritual boot camp. And listen, spiritual boot camp, it's fun, it's creative. And I will say this, if you don't love to laugh, if you don't love to have fun, and you don't love simplicity, I'm probably not your girl. But if you do love those things and you love to grow, Spiritual Boot Camp is a monthly program where I come in, I teach live lessons, I do videos, I give you homework, we interact. Spiritual Boot Camp, it's on my website. But the place to start first is with my free ebook, 3 Keys to Unlocking Your Divine Purpose. I'm giving you literally 3 keys that I used that helped me reveal my divine purpose. So if you do nothing else, go get that free ebook because it will change the way you think about your purpose.
How do we get the free ebook? I'm on your website. Where would I go for it?
All the way at the bottom. There's a little tab going across the bottom, and it says 3 Keys to Unlocking Your Divine Purpose.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yep, very prominent. And also, listen, I love me some Facebook. Veronica Drake on Facebook. I am on that group. I do live angel readings on there. I do live videos. That 22,000 plus community, that's my family. I am totally comfortable. Everyone's welcome on there. There's a diversity of opinion. It's totally a family.
So it's a Facebook group?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's my page? Facebook.
Oh, your
Veronica.
Your Facebook fan page.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, that link will also be in the show notes of the podcast. Learn True Health has a Facebook group and a Facebook page, so I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't a group, it's a Facebook page. You're welcome, by the way, and all listeners are welcome to join the Learn True Health Facebook group. Just search Learn True Health in Facebook and find the group, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/group, and we have a growing fun group there, and people share and ask questions, and guests and listeners alike can meet up there. And then of course we want to go to Veronica Drake's fan page and hit like and follow and engage there as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a true pleasure, and I'd love for you to absolutely come on the show in the future. I know you have more to teach, and I think my brain is full now. I don't know if you've ever seen that comic where the kid is has his hand up and he's like, "Sir, my brain's full. Can I go home?" And his head is like smaller than everyone else's head. That's how I feel right now. It's like my brain's full.
I told you I talk a lot.
No, it's great. You've given us so much gold. I got to go process it, and I definitely want to utilize what you've taught us today. Thank you so much, Veronica. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Hey, I'd love to end today's interview by you sharing a challenge that you could give our listeners, something that they could do now and for the next 7 days, in addition to, of course, everything you've taught us, but do you have a challenge that you could give us so that we can begin to see an improvement in our spiritual health?
Sure. Take one thought that's heavy, that's negative, and turn it around and repeat it every single day for the next 7 days, at least 10 times a day. So take that negative thought, turn it around to make it a positive, and repeat it every day, 10 times a day for 7 days, and you will begin to create the new pathway.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.